Hi everyone, it's Diane K. Brennan, and something came up in my Instagram feed today that made me absolutely have to jump on and do this video because this is why I don't go to doctors, and I basically tell them their job is to run diagnostics, and if there's something wrong, tell me about it, and then their job ends and mine begins, is because one, doctors get zero nutrition education in medical school. This is well documented. They get zero. And then what little they get is published in like the New England Medical Journal or is put out there by the World Health Organization and things like this. So this is from the World Health Organization, or the there's other names for it. Health is not what it's all about. And this is a report. Now, they did initially over 800 studies, and I'm reading to make sure I get this right because this is actually a post based on fact here. Only 29 of which were put forward to make this report. Only 14 of those ended up being considered in the final report. And the majority, only 8 of those, the majority of them, 8 of them, showed zero correlation between protein and cancer. But this says protein causes cancer. Big headline, protein causes cancer. Okay. World Health Organization, big report. 2 of these studies were carried out on rodents which were injected with cancer-causing chemicals and then fed red meat. And then the report came to the conclusion that red meat caused cancer. What's really interesting is that actually zero of the rats actually got cancer. And yet this is what they said. So zero correlation, no rats got cancer despite being injected with cancer-causing chemicals, things to intentionally make them get cancer, and fed red meat. And they didn't get cancer. Now, red meat and protein has actually been shown to kill cancer. There have been many things that I have read that have been cases of people sent to hospice. They're on death's door. They're literally being written off. You're dying. You're going to hospice. There's nothing more we can do for you. Switched to the carnivore diet and healed. And they survived. The cancer went away and it's never returned. Now, it says only one, from a pool of 800, only one of these studies actually showed any statistical significance, and it was carried out by a religious group who advocate for a vegan lifestyle. So there's an agenda here, okay? The vegetarian and vegan agenda is actually kind of the anti-human agenda, because the worst diet you can be on is eating foods that are trying to kill you. The proper human diet, the best diet you can be on, is a carnivore diet. Is eating strictly meats, especially strictly proteins. No sugars, no plants. Plants are very toxic. They're great medicine, but then toxins are medicine. I've talked about this before, that, snake venom can actually be used medicinally for certain conditions in the appropriate doses. So plant medicine and plants as food are 2 completely different subjects, okay? But I found this interesting, that with zero evidence, of the reports that they chose to, or studies that they chose to include in this report, showed any correlation between the red meat and the cancer. Because if you have injected something with cancer-causing chemicals and then you feed them a certain substance, you can't say that what caused the cancer is the meat or the food you're feeding them anyway, right? You can't. You've injected them with things that cause cancer, which we do to ourselves every day, and just the very air we breathe causes cancer. I mean, the air you breathe, the water you drink, it's very, very, very hard to escape carcinogens today in our modern world. So it's more and more and more important to do things that actually combat that. And this is why there's a huge war by Big Pharma, the American Medical Association, the AMA, and the World Health Organization, which are all in cahoots together. They're all, I also don't, FDA approved means zero to me. And even USDA, again, video for another day, but those guidelines they're crap, okay? There's other guidelines that are way more important than those, because those are, they're funding the bank accounts of politicians and lobbyists, or through lobbyists, have nothing to do with actually being good for us as human beings. If you live in the U.S., you are eating the most toxic food and taking the most, living in the most toxic sick care system that exists on this planet. And that's a shame, because we don't have health care here. We have sick care. It's all about making you sick and keeping you sick. And why is that? Because us being healthy does not pay them. And they do things like this, like they've done with this study. If the results don't fall into the guidelines that they want them to, they'll throw out any data that doesn't line up with it. And this has been proven. This has been proven. People who have gotten a hold of the raw data and looked at it compared to what was published have discovered, like, all of this other data that actually proves the opposite gets all thrown out, and they take this one little tiny margin of data that proves it and says this is what the study showed, or and it's not. It showed the opposite. They ignore that. And this agenda started with John D. Rockefeller in this country, because it's really the U.S. that has this issue. I'd say Canada is probably second, but the U.S. especially, we have this big issue. And it's all about money. Back in the 1800s, there were different schools of medicine. There were plant-based schools of medicine. There were schools of medicine with other bases. Bloodletting was still a thing back then. And these were, certified doctors out there practicing, licensed. And John D. Rockefeller came along, and he wanted the pharmaceutical model because it made a profit, a huge profit for him. He was already really wealthy. He was already like the wealthiest man in the world at the time, or certainly among them. And talk about greed. It's not money that's the root of all evil, right? It's the love of money above all else that's the root of all evil. And I personally feel John D. Rockefeller was a very evil man, because that's exactly, he had a love of money above all else. And so he did things like he went out and hired people to make it so that these other schools of medicine could not function. They couldn't exist anymore because they couldn't get funding, because they could never do the pharmaceutical model. And even when some of them tried to, they put in the labs, they took out their botanical gardens, they did everything, they tried to conform to get the funding, they'd still get denied. He was a very evil man. This is what he did. And this is why, herbal medicine, plant medicine is considered alternative. It's not. It's the real medicine. It's the natural medicine. It's God's medicine. It's the medicine that was designed for us. All of these things that are called alternative are not. They're the real medicine. And we've got to change this. We have to take our medical system back. There's 99% of us to fight against the 1%. They may have the money, but we have the numbers. And we need to fight against things like this. Studies that skew things, and doctors that go around spouting this at you. Oh, don't eat so much protein. Cut back your protein because protein causes cancer. Red meat causes cancer. No, it doesn't. Quite the opposite. Totally heals the cancer. Ivermectin heals cancer and many other diseases. You know, back in 2020, when they renamed the flu and did everything to publish it and make it scary to breathe the air and to be out in public together because they gave the flu a really bad name, they also gave ivermectin a really bad name. And they made it illegal to use this, and yet the people who got a hold of it and managed to use it got better and stayed alive, got healthy. And it's being proven against cancer as well. And many types of cancer. The only one I'm pretty sure that it hasn't really is actually skin cancer, but I think there's something they're working on that's similar to ivermectin that is effective against skin cancer. There are things, this is in the works in Japan, where they are working on things that are similar to ivermectin. But see, Big Pharma doesn't want you taking this stuff because Big Pharma can't make a huge profit off of it. They can't patent it and make megabucks from it and keep you sick with it. So, you know, if you actually make somebody well, you lose them a customer. That's like seriously what they'll say. They've lost a customer. And doctors aren't allowed to lose them customers or they'll lose their license here in the US. So just be aware. Like, I don't go to doctors. I know more about nutrition and health than somebody who has gone to medical school because I've been studying this for 19 years. And I dive down rabbit holes and I follow the truth, not the published reports in medical journals. I find the roots, the people who have actually looked at the raw data, who have studied the real science, not the pseudoscience that the medical community pushes, not the agenda that's out there to make us sick and keep us there and make money for the bigwigs and line the pockets of politicians. I look at the little guys who are doing the real work and the real research. And that's where I get my information. I mean, my last doctor and I fired each other because I wouldn't take a statin drug. And he basically told me if I wasn't going to follow his recommendation and take a statin drug, don't bother coming back and wasting his time anymore. And I said I wasn't planning on it because you keep pushing a statin drug at me and I wasn't coming back anyway. So it was like this mutual firing. And I haven't, the only doctor I've been to since then was when I broke my wrist because I had to, you know, to get bones reset and stuff. That's what I'll go to a doctor for now. Otherwise, I do my research. I pay attention. If I feel I need a diagnostic test for something, there's something going on and I want to see, I can't figure it out on my own and I want to see what is causing it, then I'll go get some tests run. But I'm actually getting ready to get Dr. Kendi Berry's book about the Common Sense Labs and start ordering my own tests. There are private lab companies where you can do that and learn how to read them myself. No, I'm not a doctor. I'm a holistic health practitioner. And I don't want to be a doctor. I also don't, you know, like I don't practice that on other people, only on myself. Even though I'm certified, I'm still, I apply it to me and me only. But it's what makes me make videos like this too. Do your research. Look this stuff up. It's out there. Follow, I'll put links in the description box for this, for the channels that I follow that have like the real information out there, and have really good stuff on them. People you can actually trust are doing it for your actual health and longevity and not to push an agenda. You can kind of call them the anti-agenda pushers. Anyway, much love, much light, many, many blessings. Peace out and enjoy your day.